Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm Aaron Gurley.
I'm Mike Dobbin-Speck, and this evening we're here with Rush County Sheriff candidate Allan Rice.
Hello, everybody.
Appreciate you coming on and kind of hanging out with us this evening.
No problem.
We're here just to kind of ask a few questions for you, kind of tell your side of your campaign, and go from there. It shouldn't be anything too bad. We'll find out. We'll let you guys be the judge.
Yeah, we want to say thank you to Allan for taking the time to come in here this evening and talk to us. We have had a chance to talk to Todd. We did a few weeks back. We absolutely want to make sure we had the opportunity to speak with you as well, so the community, our viewers, could have an opportunity to hear what you have to say as well. Some of your ideas and visions and some of the things that you believe in that are important for the office of Sheriff of Rush County. We find that important. Obviously, it is a very important position within the county. It is the numero uno law enforcement officer, or law enforcement official in every county. So we want to kind of get an idea of what you have, obviously, to the constituents that you're going to talk to, what you have to offer as far as experience and skills, not only as a deputy, but as a community leader, as just as a person. I mean, I think it's important, even when you run for office, that people have a little understanding of the personal side that goes along with that.
Yep, I agree. I'll say let's get started.
All right.
Allan, tell us about yourself.
All right. Well, I was born in 1970. Born in actually Fort Monmouth, New Jersey. That's where my dad was stationed in the Army. We moved back to Rush County in about 1974 and I've lived here ever since. Graduated from high school here in 1988. Attended Indiana State University. I also was in an apprenticeship program through NTAP Precision that started in 1990. In 1994, I graduated through that with a journeyman's in industrial repair. Some of my law enforcement history started as a reserve in Carthage, Indiana. After that, I was asked to join their team as a paid deputy marshal. So at that point, I attended the Indiana Law Enforcement Town Marshals Academy and graduated from that. A few years later, we moved on to the county as a reserve. And after a couple of years of that, 3 openings came within the Rush County Sheriff's Department, and I applied and I was hired. Shortly after that, I went through the Academy for the Basic. The Basic is what all the local law enforcement do with more than 3 members of one department. So I attended that at the age of 41 and I graduated. Through that, I was awarded the Herman Freed Award, which is one of the very highest honors that can be given out. It's actually voted on by your peers, so 102 other officers in that class voted for me to be the one that was proven for honesty, integrity, and most of all, the one that they would want to stand with when times are bad.
Excellent.
After serving on the department, I've been awarded over the years Reserve of the Year. I've also been awarded Deputy of the Year. Through the department, I'm also a ILEA Academy Basic Instructor, and I hold specialties in instructing EVO, stops, and taser. And I'm also a member of the drug interdiction team.
Excellent. Excellent.
As a deputy, also you have a partner, right?
Yes, I do. I'm also a canine handler. My partner's name is Justice. She's a 2.5-year-old black Belgian Malinois.
Excellent.
And that in itself, Allan, takes a great deal of commitment and dedication as well, right? Because you have, if my memory serves me correctly, you have a great deal of training that goes into that, not only as the law enforcement side, but getting that partner used to you as well, right?
Yes, we did, and we were very lucky. When we selected the dogs came to us. The dogs were completely trained and obedient trained. So through the course, it only took about 4 days to create that bond, and of course we've had that bond ever since.
Excellent.
Good deal. I from one of my personal testimonies of knowing Allan, I first met you back in the 3rd grade, probably circa, shoot, 97 or 98. I'm not good with math. That might surprise some of you. Dang it. When Adam started going to Mays, we became pretty good buddies out there, and kind of ran around pretty much ever since then. And still, you know, we don't see each other as much as we used to, but I know that you were a staple in his life at that time, and a lot of our fellow classmates. And you know, you really haven't changed much since then. You've always, you know, like you said, you've been honest, and your integrity's been top of the line ever since then. And you know, thank you for that. And then 10 years ago, when I was running out the sheriff's department, the police department, you were out of Carthage. I think you were just finishing up out there, I believe. But there was a couple of years there where we'd run out to you out there and kind of meet up and have a couple of donuts, if you will. No offense, but
Right.
I'm a big fan myself.
In this piece, we are discussing, you know, what the next sheriff of Rush County has to put in his sights, in his vision, and understand that, you know, there is a long road ahead. As with any elected position, there is a long road ahead. But in that piece, you have some ideas, some visions, if you will, of what you believe could improve the sheriff's department. Without going into any great detail, would you be willing to share some of those ideas with us?
Yeah. I believe that the sheriff is the leader of the group, and I have the definition here from Webster, what a leader is. And a powerful person who controls or influences what other people do, a person who leads a group, organization, country, etc. That's pretty plain and simple. But what I believe in a leader has to do is a leader must be able to facilitate the ability for his and her employees to succeed at the tasks they have in their daily duties. And by that, I mean we have to make sure that the employees have what they need to do the job. Some ideas I have along that is we have to make it very clear what is expected through the rules and the guidelines, but we also have to have achievable goals for them to know this is our goal, this is what we need to work for. And as long as you make those achievable, it makes everybody work towards the same goal. Also, you got to have the necessary tools for the job, and in that I mean the proper training, the proper equipment, and something that I think that's kind of fell by the wayside is mentorship. We're going to have the opportunity for several new employees, and we have to develop a mentorship with the new employees so that they can see the path and the way that they need to do the job. Lastly, I believe that we must address the issues when they arise. No answer to a question, it just kills morale. And once morale goes down, then the employees will start losing their motivation. So my motto that I've chosen to go with is lead by example. And that's exactly what I mean. That means that I hold myself to the highest standard of the department. And I also hold my employees to a high standard. We believe that we have to do the things right in the community, whether you're on or off duty. We must provide the image for the community, especially for the little kids and even high schoolers that may be looking up to us or for a career in law enforcement. So we got to provide that path. Part of being into that office leadership, there's two things. You have respect and then you have authority. The voters, if elected, will give me the authority to run that department. But I believe that respect should be earned. If you earn the respect of your employees, everything is going to go smoother. If you demand the respect of your employees, I believe that makes you a weak leader, and nobody's going to want to follow.
I agree with that, 100%.
And I would agree with that. In that conversation, you had said something about mentorship, which I find to be, your idea of that is one, absolutely fantastic, because I myself am a person who believes that the only way that a community is ever going to strive and get better is by having mentoring programs, and that includes in the workforce, because you even if elected as a sheriff only have 8 years initially. in that 8 years, I would think, and oftentimes I find myself talking to people and realizing that this is not the case for everyone, but for most people, it's you should want to build your leadership through your department, so then when your turn is over, that next person can step up and do those same things that you did and carry on that vision and carry on that legacy that you have helped build within your department.
Exactly.
And so I believe that that is a huge piece, and I applaud you for that. I think that's phenomenal. I will say that I also believe that there are others who have began that process as well. I believe that the city of Rushville, a lot of the government officials there have utilized that standard. Let's build from the ground up and make sure that we can sustain what we're going to do in the future. And so I applaud Rushville and Rush County for making those adjustments as the years move on now. And clearly it's working, because now you are also wanting to do that, make sure that you sustain what you want to build at the sheriff's department, which again, like I said, I applaud that.
Yep, absolutely. There's a lot to be said about building on a foundation and making it, you know, stronger.
Well, and when you said tools, you said tools as an equipment and training. Like any job, the training piece of that is very important, because you know, essentially most folks in the sheriff's department and the police department, well, public safety service overall, essentially hold people's lives in their hands. And me as a community member, I'm much aboard the fact of I want the best trained individuals behind there when that time comes. You know, if that time comes, I have to call 911. I'll make sure I get the help I need. So again, I think that's a fantastic highlight, demonstrating that you have taken the time to look around and see what you really need, what kind of vision to build for that future. So again, I appreciate that.
Projects that you have going on. I mean, obviously, I mean, we kind of touched on it with Todd. You know, now it's not a point whether you're for or against the jail. You know, it's happening. You said that last time. There's no reason to butt heads on that anymore. What kind of ideas do you have for the jail?
Of course, being out, knocking on doors, talking to people, a lot of people, they ask the question, what are you going to do with all that space? This jail's way too big. And I don't feel that way about the jail. Within the jail, what we're going to have to do is bring the skill of the employees and bring in more skilled employees to be able to run this jail. So as we're ramping up the jail and filling it up, we'll be also working through with the employment and making sure where we're at, so we don't get ourselves in a bind on that side of it. We have over 500 outstanding warrants in the county, so when you add that in, as you start collecting those in, it's not going to be hard to fill the jail. We also have probation warrants, stuff like that, or that'll be incoming in. So filling the jail won't be a problem. Ramping up our skill set within the correctional officers will be the slower pace of the two.
Right.
Now, what does concern me about the new jail during that staffing is there's going to be new jobs created. We're going to have to be working with the physician and with a dietitian, because now we'll be cooking our own meals inside of the jail. With that, also, you got to find vendors that are going to be following into your budget, reliable. Nothing would be worse than having 116 inmates and not have your food delivered, and then have to figure out where you're going to get your food and running over to Kroger's to try to get that. That's not going to, it's going to be costly for the department. So we have to make sure that with the program we have, we're going down the right path and staying within the budget guidelines. Those are the issues with the food. The other thing is the medical costs. You know, supplying the medication for the inmates. Of course, with the number of inmates going up, the cost is going to go up. There's no way to really combat that, but we have to make sure that we stay competitive with our drug vendors as well.
Along those lines of the jail, in that situation, or in the interview we had with Todd, one of the questions I can remember just right off the top of my head, that followed the jail conversation was those of the program piece, as opposed to just, you know, I think we had the conversation, the exact conversation with Todd was, you can throw them in jail, and I get it. They broke the law, and we can do it that way, and rightfully so. I would say that those who offend the law deserve and need to be held accountable for that. However, as we move along, and we have seen some success within our own community of the programs, of the drug court programs, of the community corrections programs, so on and so forth. Can you give us a little insight on how you feel about those type of programs?
That's an interesting, correct question. Last night I did speak with the Brianna's Hope group, and I'm for all the programs that we still have. I want to continue them. The programs that come in are outside agencies, if you will. They come and they bring their program and they meet with the inmates. I think that that's vital. We have to work in a path to try to stop the vicious circle of being released, committing a crime, being convicted, back to jail. And working at this with people that have already made it successful is critical, because it's hard for me to tell somebody that, you know, you have to stop an addiction, because I've never had an addiction.
Right.
But if you have somebody that's been in their shoes and knows what they're going through, it helps. So I believe the programs are a must. I have talked with the leaders with the programs, and I have told them that if I'm elected sheriff, we will continue the programs, and at least twice a year we will evaluate the programs and make sure that they're still being successful. And if they're not being successful, it's not about removing a program, it's how we can bring in more information, or maybe even a different guideline that will help us be successful.
So you're talking about, just like anything else, you're talking about an evaluation to make sure that it's still effective.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, you're also talking about an evaluation because you want to make sure that those programs are still providing the utmost valuable information that they can to help those folks along.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We have a positive trend started, and just like with the Sheriff's Department, they have laid a foundation with several successful people.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to build on that, and we need to continue to use those that are successful.
Well, I think again that's terrific that you have went down and spoken to that group of individuals at Brianna's Hope, because I'll tell you, they themselves are building a foundation and doing a remarkable job. And I can tell you that I know from firsthand of a sibling that those type of programs that we just talked about are absolutely life-changing. And
not only life-changing, life-saving.
yeah, life-saving is the
Exactly.
biggest piece, yes. Like I said, I just wanted to touch on that because I know there has been a lot of questions surrounding the sheriff's race overall when it comes to those type of programs. So we appreciate you taking the time to answer that one.
I would like to touch on the other side of this.
Yeah.
As being the sheriff, it is my job to make sure that we do enforce the law, make sure that we are enforcing the law and increasing what we have done in the past. Inside doing that, for those people that may be arrested and put in there, that may be the only shot that they had to get this life-changing, life-saving information. So we will do our best to continue to uphold the law and combat the drugs, and we'll let the programs walk in, and we ourselves need to be more involved in the programs to try to help keep the positive side to it. We have to make a positive influence on the community. Media doesn't do our line of work any favors, and the only way we can change that is for us being out there showing a positive influence, and that's going to help us hugely with community relations.
Well, and that goes back to the kind of the old adage of community policing.
Mm-hmm.
Being involved in the community, not just coming there, drawing a paycheck, and going home, but actually coming out and being invested in not only those types of programs, but being invested in the school system, being invested in the Boys and Girls Club, being invested here, pretty much anywhere, because I know as a kid growing up, you look at a law enforcement officer almost as a superhero. I mean, honestly, as a kid growing up, you do. Why? Some of the fondest memories I have are of individuals like Bob Bridges, who came and done the drug program with us there, the DARE program at school. Some others that I can remember is Gary Catron from the conservation coming in and doing a conservation piece. But yet they are being actively involved, trying to make their community a better place, and they're starting with that through the youth, which to me says if you can begin to instill those things into the youth then you can move forward in a more positive light, where maybe years down the road you don't have to build jails that house 500 people. You know, I think in the grand scheme of things, I think that's all our hopes, that you don't have to do that. We understand that there are still going to be bad things that happen in the world, but I do believe, yeah, being a part of the community is absolutely essential. You have to be.
Yep. And you know, like you said, you know, starting with those younger kids, the younger generation, that goes back to the whole foundation idea. You know, a good kid's gonna grow up to be a great adult. You know, and vice versa. And there's a good opportunity there. And I think what we're doing right now with, I mean, Bob, I know he's at the schools every day, and there's an opportunity there for more people and to make that foundation bigger and better.
Well, and I think, you know, that you know, we have to almost embark on another question, because we're talking about being in the community and outreaching and community policing and things of that nature. We also have to ask this question, Allan, as the sheriff of Roche County, how would you combat or become a part of the solution of helping secure our schools a little more?
And that's actually part of my plan for 2019. With the security of the schools, currently there's several school resource officers that work in the program. However, we don't have all the schools in the cover counted on a daily basis. So if elected, I'd be more than happy to work with Chief Tucker, the school system, on figuring out a plan, number one, for coverage for all the schools, and in my opinion, using law enforcement officers to fill those positions, because you look at about 85% of law enforcement officers at least have 2 jobs, some of them 3. And they are highly qualified, they are skilled to protect all the schools. So in that doing, we have to work with the school system, and I truly believe there would be some federal money coming down sooner or later to help protect the schools. So as we're doing this program, let's use our resources that we have. Also, on the point that you talked about, starting with the education, I believe that our organization needs to work with all ages of the children in school, starting with kindergarten. We need to have base programs to where an officer can work with a grade throughout the whole community, have a program, establish a contact and a base. They're increasing their program as their grade levels go up. And not only does that provide them with a face and bodies in there, we need to let the small children in the community know that law enforcement officers are here to serve the good. If they have a problem, they can come talk to us, not be afraid of us. That's one of my biggest pet peeves is, if you're not good, we're going to send you over there with him. Well, no, we want to help this child when they need, and we don't want them scared of us. So instilling that in a younger age, as they get older, we need to introduce the problems that there is with the illegal drugs, the prescription drugs. We have to introduce them to what's going on with that so they can say no. So they have that idea, there's a negative side to this. And even at the older age, using some of the people that have recovered to let their experience be known, to let them know this is what the dark and the bad side of this is. There's not just a positive of a high. You're going to have to deal with this too. And I think we can start to make a difference, and as soon as we start making that difference, we just have to continue with the program.
Well, you touched on, in that you said programs. You know, I can remember, you know, it's something simple, but yet something that I still have kids walk up to me every day and talk to me about. Halloween safety. We did a Halloween safety program, Chief Tucker and I, for the kindergarten students at RES every day. So that just goes to show you that when you do go in there and you do go to see them, it takes a great deal of time, because I think those kids are probably, the first ones we were part of probably are in 4th or 5th grade now. So that just tells me that they do store it right back here in their little memories to remember that, oh, hey, I remember that guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a good thing. And it does help, no matter how small of a program it may be. I think we all can agree that any program that shines a positive light is something we should all be for.
Still a positive program, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So as we move forward, Dob, do you have any more questions for him?
I think I'm good. You touched base on the Brianna's Hope, and that was one thing I've been asked here recently is, talking about addiction programs and everything like that, and you touched base on that, so that's great. That's really all I've got.
Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I would like to highlight my plan for 2019.
Excellent.
First and foremost, we need to upscale our, we'll call it the the war on drugs. And by that, I don't just mean illegal drugs, I also mean the prescription drugs. In my opinion, we're battling the same amount of illegal drugs versus prescription drugs out there on the street. So, and in doing that, we currently are in a drug interdiction program. We work it 1 day a week. I really want to expand on that and expand it out for more days and involve more people. Working with more people to keep that, even if you do that 5 days a week, I think it would greatly help the community. And the reason I say that is in 2017, the 4-member team averaged an arrest 1 out of every 8 traffic stops doing this special patrol. And getting better in 2018 so far, we're averaging an arrest in about 1 in every, I think, 6.5 traffic stops. And that, the reason that it's gotten a little better is that the guys are learning the business better. We're not looking for the known infractions, speeding, stuff like that. We're looking for changes of behavior in people where the guilt of something inside of the car makes them feel like I'm doing something wrong. So we watch it and we go and we investigate it. This is a program that's used all across the United States with success greatly. Will we ever be able to defeat drugs on the street? We won't. But the more that we take out of the streets and we take away from the hands of the dealers, transportation of money, we're making a difference. And that positive difference we have to continue.
Well, and real quick, I would like to highlight that not only the drug program, not only the drug enforcement is important, but as an experienced law enforcement officer, the Dob knows as well, because I know we've had this conversation before. Those drugs often lead to a high crime rate of other things, such as burglaries and thefts, and because those folks are looking to get that money to score those drugs and then it's just one downhill cycle that cannot be like you said, cannot be defeated, but it surely should not be ignored.
Right. And second point for our 2019 is the crime. A lot of crime is driven by drugs. So we have a very good data collection system. However, we have a lot of different ways that information is entered into that. So we have to develop a standard so that the information is current, easy to get to, and allows us to either put extra patrol in the area or just take, for instance, we have a rash of break-ins, and we'll say in Ripley Township up around Carthage. We know that it's happened during the day, so we need to adjust patrols or actually even add extra patrols with maybe even overtime at that point to put a pressure on that area. Number one, to try to catch who's doing it, and if we can't catch who's doing it, we put enough pressure on them that they don't want to be in Rush County because they're afraid that they're going to get caught. My third point that we have to have is communications amongst the departments. We have to improve that from the city to the county to the state. None of the people that work in this county from any of those 3 agencies are big enough by themselves to handle everything that goes on. So the communication in between the 3 departments, we have to be able to come together and work together. And I believe that working well with the other departments will allow us to get through these transitions smoothly. the volunteer fire departments and fire departments, I know there's a concern over radios. It's a problem that I know that's ongoing. I've talked to the EMA director. There's a Motorola versus a Kenwood. And we as the sheriff's department will make sure that we'll be able to hear their departments. An agreement's going to have to be made out there in the volunteer fire department world about the radio systems. I believe the county has decided to deal with the Kenwoods. So we have to make sure that that works. It is imperative that those departments are able to communicate with each other and with us. On the law enforcement side, for law enforcement, if elected, I will keep law enforcement on the 800 megahertz radio. I believe that that is the radio system we need to use. All the surrounding counties now are using it. All the surrounding cities are using it. So when we're out there working and we're scanning, we know what's going on around us. And they know if we need help, they can respond instantly. Those are some concerns on communications. For those in any of those departments, I'll have an open door policy so we can sit down and talk about any issues that may arise, because we can't let there be a barrier in our working. We have to be able to work smoothly together. I also like to, in 2019, being financially responsible is a high point. If I'm the one that's putting my name on that request for the money, I'm going to be accountable for it. We have to make sure that we stay within our budget. We have to make sure that we're still successful. So it's going to take me working with the council and the commissioners to make sure that that can move smoothly and move forward on into the next 3 years of the term. The budget will be set here in the fall of 2018 for 2019, so it's going to be set, and it is just going to be something that I can go with. That'll give me a chance to work on areas that we need in 2019 to set it for the next year. And the last point I had for 2019 were the schools, which we covered on your question.
Well, sorry about that.
No, that's perfectly fine. I'll be glad to answer it anytime you ask.
Well, you know, and you talk about the budgets, and you know, we've talked about the jail briefly. The jail will be a major adjustment as far as the budget goes. I think we all understand that. But as we've said before, and I think we should reiterate it again, the discussion of whether it should or shouldn't happen is over. Do I believe it's too big? I personally do not believe that. I would probably side with Allan on that. To say that I don't believe it's too big. I have worked at the jail, and there have been many a times where that jail was far overpopulated, and it becomes not only a hazard for those within inside of it, but those who work there. Mm-hmm. And I think with those things being accounted for, and the fact that the jail was 40 years old, the state did say that we needed to replace it. With those things aside, obviously, again, we do understand that the jail is a challenge, but that jail is a challenge for anyone, mm-hmm. any county. So I believe what you've outlined as far as financial responsibility, I think that speaks volumes to understanding that concept of, things are going to be a little tighter, but nothing that you can't adjust. And you're right. As far as the finances go, that biggest piece falls upon the council and the commissioners, and having a good working relationship with them. And I find that, again, to be another prime example of a good thing, that you show the willingness to just openly say that, hey, I'll work with them however I have to help make that happen. And so I think, again, that's the overall picture. What you said about communication is also key. The piece, the 800 megahertz, that some folks have a hard time understanding a little bit, because it is a complex radio system. It's not a basic radio system. But it does offer an immense opportunity for interoperability, which you discuss on. But an interoperability basically means that you can talk to Shelby County, they can talk to you. You can go to a channel here, they can have that channel. I want to make sure I'm saying this right, because I feel like I should know it.
You should, it's right.
But it does serve a good purpose. And for what you're trying to do as you move forward, I understand people get caught in their ways, and they want it to be this way. Well, sometimes this way isn't always the best way anymore. And the safety and security of those people out there on the streets, and law enforcement wise, fire department, EMS, and for the community itself. With that understanding, they should understand that the radio system they need to utilize is what's best for everyone, not just for their own particular department.
Yeah.
And I think, again, your willingness to have, you know, the open door policy, I think that offers a great line of communication. And I think that's what we need a little bit more of.
Yep.
Whomever that leader may be, an open line of communication, you can't shut those doors, because if you do,
Yeah.
communication, I've always been told that communication is the first thing that fails.
Yes.
So, is there anything else you'd like to add?
I would like to touch on one last subject before we go. In the past week or so, I believe that my leadership ability has been questioned. Things some people really should know about me that they may not know is during the time as I spent as 20 years as a skilled tradesman, 12 of those years I spent in a leadership position. In that time I dealt with supervision, scheduling, planning, purchasing, contract negotiations, regressive bargaining, investigated wrongdoing of employees, discipline, and termination. 12 years of that time I spent doing those jobs. Nothing has changed. We're just in a different line of work. And I believe that my ability to work with people and willingness to continue to work towards our goals should speak for itself.
And I say that's a good thing for folks to know, because, you know, in all honesty, whether you're a supervisor in this particular area or a supervisor in this particular area, those things that in which you have listed are the same things that you will implement as the sheriff.
Mm-hmm.
So I think sometimes people get caught up in the fact that, oh, you didn't do that for the government, or oh, you did that for the government, you've never done that for a private business. Well, in all actuality, they parallel themselves on a line. So supervision and administration is supervision and administration in either line. So we appreciate that information. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure folks out there will also appreciate the opportunity to hear that information.
Yeah.
We hope that this interview has helped you gain a little insight on the sheriff candidate of the Republican Party, Allan Rice. We hope maybe some of these questions will answer some of those outlying questions you may have about what he was going to do, or how he feels about this or that, what kind of leadership he has to offer, what kind of experience he has to offer. We hope those questions have been answered. Don?
Hey, I appreciate your time.
All right.
Best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Aaron, I
very much.
appreciate the endorsement. And May 8th, don't forget to vote for Rice for sheriff.
Till next time, we'll see you.
Hey, don't forget to vote, May 8th.
Absolutely. We gone.
See you guys.